Welcome to the Neck Mobility Conditioning Series. To me, personally, this is one of the most important series that I demonstrate. Back in the 70s, I had a severe spinal trauma. I had a fracture, a dislocation, and subluxation of C3, 4, and 5. I was told I would never play sports again. Through vigorous exercise, I have completely rehabilitated my neck. For me, it is an absolute daily must. My neck is very stiff at times. I have a tendency to form some arthritis, so I've got to watch my diet very, very carefully. These are the neck exercises that I've settled on. These are the ones that personally have given me great results and make me feel really, really good and still allow me to play vigorous sports such as submission wrestling or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Let's start with the front and back mobility. Nodding the head forward, chin to the little notch, and then back. Imagine the axis going right through the skull. And imagine that your head is just rotating in that little axis. I'm not bending the head forward, but I'm just simply rotating the skull in that first cervical vertebrae. Make sure that you breathe with the movement. I'm using anatomical match. Inhale, exhale. Squeeze your head against the traps in the back a little bit. The repetition count can be quite high, especially if your neck's really stiff. Don't go into pain. Once again, on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being the worst pain you've ever felt, don't go above a manageable level 3. You don't want to drive yourself into pain. Now we'll do the lateral movement to the side. Imagine an axis coming through your chin, going back to the skull. My head's just rotating and rocking on the first cervical vertebrae, side to side. Through these exercises, I've been able to keep my neck pretty flexible and mobile and strong. Once again, the major difference between mobility and flexibility exercises, there's a strength and movement component to all of the mobility moves. It's range of motion I'm interested in. Now we're going to do a slightly different rotation. I'm going to rotate the top of my head slightly to the side and let my chin go the opposite direction. And once again, my head's just moving on top of that first cervical vertebrae. I'm not twisting the head, but I'm still rotating, but there's a slight turn of the chin, so that the crown is going one way and the chin is going the other. So it's slightly different. From the lateral, I find this very beneficial. It gets very deep up underneath that skull, frees my neck from tension and pain. Usually I'll do these exercises first thing in the morning until the neck feels completely free of all tension. Now we'll do the twist, looking right and then looking left. I imagine a little string pulling the crown of the head up and elongating the neck as I do the exercise. I use my peripheral vision to pick a spot behind me, and I try to exceed the spot. Because the movement is fairly quick, it's hard to match the movement to the breath, so I'll inhale on 4, and then exhale on 4. Sometimes I will perform several hundred repetitions before the neck feels good. Other times I only need 10 or 15, depending on what I've done the day before and how I've slept that night. The next is the glides. We're going to do a front glide. It kind of looks like a chicken and back. I'm coming out and back. It's a slight angle down. Now I'm imagining that I'm being elongated. So my face stays pretty square. For most people, this is a pretty easy exercise to master. And this gets a very, very deep level also. We also have a lateral glide. This is very hard for most people. You may need to practice in the mirror. It took me months and months to be able to get my neck to move this way because of old scar tissue and inflammation. It moves from side to side. Now, a good way to learn this move is to place your hands on your shoulders. And I put my nose on the crack, the seam of my bathroom mirror. And then I would move my head to one side of the mirror, and then on the same, then the other. And then I learned to move the head side to side, and eventually you don't need the arms. I find, though, that by pressing the hands slightly on the thighs, and just a slight shoulder shrug will allow me to get a good lateral glide. Now, I'm no Shakira, but you should have saw me before. I couldn't move my neck in this plane of motion at all. What are the benefits? Freedom from pain. Freedom in all directions. Once again, we have a saying in jiu-jitsu. Get used to being in these positions because someone's going to put you there whether you want them to or not. So the idea is to be tension-free. This reduces injury. Now, let's put those two together. The front glide and the lateral into a circle. Front, side, rear, side, front. And you can do it very mechanically in the beginning. And you may have to use a mirror. This is not easy for most people, especially if you have a really well-developed neck and shoulders. Now let's reverse. Side, rear, side, front. Get all the tension. Breathe. I'm inhaling and exhaling. Keeping the breath soft. Let's sophisticate the movement by doing a figure eight. Front to the left rear, front to the right rear. So we're doing a forward figure eight. And then a backward figure eight would be starting from the front, rear, left front, rear right. These can be seated, done seated. You can do it while watching TV. People that sit in front of a computer in the office, really, really good thing to do. Just take a break, get up from the desk, move around, even sitting at the desk, sitting in traffic. You can practice doing your neck movements throughout the day. As I said before, with that severe neck trauma, I have to be very vigilant and always working that neck. All right, let's go to the figure eight. Imagine you're Pinocchio and you just told a big whopper and your nose is grown and you have a little piece of chalk. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an imaginary figure eight with my nose. I'm going to turn my head and drop it down and rotate the head up and look at an imaginary spot in the ceiling. Turn my head, drop my head down, and roll up. So in essence, I'm doing a nice, big figure eight. This feels wonderful. Many times when the other movements can't quite get the tension or pain out of my neck, this is the movement I go to. And if your neck's really sore, you can do a little figure eight with the nose. Just trace an imaginary little figure eight. And you can do every angle. You ought to hear the clicking and grating going on. You can turn the head and do little figure eights. Find the position of tension and then just keep working it until you feel all the tension release. Try all different angles of the little mini figure eights. Wonderful exercise. The last standing sequence we're going to do is the shoulder shrug. It's the neck and the shoulders obviously are tied in. And generally speaking, if you have a lot of tension up through the chest and thoracics, it can also create tension in the neck. So the shrugs work a lot of the muscles of the upper back and they attach into the neck. Notice that I'm not bringing the elbows out. I'm trying to let my arms hang. I'm just kind of sliding the hands up and down the seam. Feels really good. Now let's reverse the shrug forward. Try to keep the arms uninvolved as much as possible. Now let's do alternating back, like you're on a little spindle, like a little rotation. And then reverse and forward. And back again. And front. This is also a great way to get rid of a lot of tension in the upper neck and back and get you free of pain. Now we're going to lay down to the ground. I'm going to show you some mobility conditioning exercises. What do I mean by conditioning? Well, there's a strength component involved, obviously, with conditioning. The first one, I'm going to lay on my stomach. And I'm going to lie in a prostration position, they call in yoga. And I'm going to try to make my body as long as possible with my forehead on the ground. And I keep trying to stretch the arms and the legs as far, make my spine as long as possible. From this position, I'm going to raise my head and squeeze it against my trapezius. That's all the further I can go. It's like a little neck isometric. And squeeze. And the resistance is your own neck. Now, it's a tendency to start to shorten up, so keep lengthening. And you can go fairly fast. Usually 50 reps, 100 reps. Give you really good strength and endurance. All right, the next one we're going to do on our back. We're going to get into a butterfly position here. Open up the knees from here. And we're going to bring our head so our chin is on the chest. From here, I'm going to contract my abdominal muscles so you get residual benefit in the stomach. And I'm going to turn my head to the right and then to the left. And I'm going to turn rapidly. What makes this different than the standing is my neck has to contract and actually hold my head up. So I'm getting a strong neck contraction with the weight of my head. If you wanted, you could actually put like a 5 or 10 pound ankle weight in the head and strap it around your head. And you'll find these muscles get tired very, very quickly. The next one, I'm going to squeeze the knees into my chest, head down. Now I'm going to attempt to bring my head up and then down. You won't have much range. And I'm trying to touch my chin to this little notch right here in my chest. And keep the knees squeezed together. Now I'm only doing a few repetitions because I don't want to bore you with my own personal workout. However, try to work up to 100 reps of these things. You'd be shocked at how difficult it is and how good your neck will feel getting that blood pumped in there. Now let's do a lateral move on your elbow under the shoulder, legs and feet together. You can use your other arm for support and let your head hang. Just let it hang and bring it up. Once again, you can do that as a weighted mobility drill by placing an ankle weight on the head. Obviously, the weight that you're lifting would be on this side of the head. All right, I'm going to turn my back, and so you can see the other side from the other angle. Elbow under the shoulder, body straight. Let the head just hang and stretch. And it feels very, very good. And my neck feels very flushed with blood right now. I had a little stiffness. I slept a little funny last night. I've been filming for a couple days. I find these exercises are fantastic for just helping get that circulation going and get the synovial fluid washing over the joints. Now, we're going to do an exercise that will stretch the back of the neck called the shoulder roll. This is very scary for a lot of people. But if you are any type of contact, play any kind of contact sport, especially if you do any type of jiu-jitsu, judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and so forth. This is a very, very important exercise. But even if you're not, even if you're just a housewife or a businessman, it's really important to be able to get your neck free enough to do this exercise. It's called the shoulder roll. And basically, you're going to put your arm down between the legs. You're going to walk across the shoulders and end up on your knee. Once again, arm between. You start to lift up. Go ahead and walk. Use your hands if you have to. Walk your feet. If your feet come off the floor because you're stiff, that's all right. You'll start to loosen up. Use your hands to support you and try to get over the fear of the position. So you can go one direction, and then you can go the other direction. And it feels very, very good. It's a very strengthening exercise. It puts your neck in that stretched position, which would normally be a position of weakness, and makes it very, very, very strong. Now the next one is called the bridge to plow move. It's a neck roll, basically. It's the same type of shoulder roll, except you're starting from a back bridge. It's another one of the advanced mobility drill. You saw in the other spinal series, the bridge series, very similar, where you come up into the bridge, try to flatten the spine to the floor. I'm going to take my arm and place it underneath my body. This arm comes over top. Now I'm going to do that same shoulder roll. Notice how the legs start to come underneath. My legs come in a circle, When I'm to the other side, the bottom leg comes through, and I'm back to the bridge. Let's go to this side. Arm comes through, arm comes over, hips turn. This is where most people lose it. Now I go across the neck. Now the leg comes through, and back to the bridge. I'll do a couple at speed so you can see what the exercise looks like. And let's go 3 the other way. It may look somewhat difficult. I have found that exercise to be extremely freeing to my entire neck. It makes the neck feel wonderful, rather counterintuitive looking, really. Now the next one is a little bit more advanced. It's called a long neck roll. Once you've mastered this, and this becomes pretty easy, you start in the prone position, arms flat. I'm going to turn the shoulder. As I do so, I'm going to come up on my toes and turn back. Let's go to the other side. Turn the shoulder. Use your hands in the beginning. It's okay. Start to drag the foot. There's a very strong abdominal influence in this. You get a very deep layer of abdominal strength as well as neck flexibility and mobility. Other side. That is a tremendous whole body workout with major emphasis on the entire neck and shoulders. The next exercise I'd like to share with you that's helped me quite a bit. I find that a lot of times if my thoracics are tied up, so is my neck. This is a very common yoga position. One of my limiting factors because of my serious injuries is my ability to arch the neck back, both upper spine. From here I'm going to cup the buttocks, sit on the elbows, and drop the head back. I'm trying to arch my neck as much as possible. Now, I bring my knees up and my legs, and the legs actually help the arch because of the contraction of the hip flexors. From here, I hold my hands and I do leg raises. As I do it, there are micro movements happening in my chest and my neck, and it's helping me get into a deeper arch. And what I found, this helps open my spine. It helps with spinal extension. The next one is the front bridge. Now, for beginners, and even if you're not a beginner, it's a wonderful warm-up exercise. You can start on your knees and your hands. Place the top of your head to the floor and gently rock and touch your eyebrows to the floor. Use your hands. And then from the top of the head, start to work your ears to the floor, side to side. Once again, don't force it. Use your arms to unweight your body. As that becomes easier, the next step is to go on the toes, still using the hands for support. Here, and rock. And you can go side to side using your hands. And eventually you can just hold. And this works the neck from every possible angle from the front. Now, if you have severe neck injuries or severe neck pain, you might want to work into that one very slowly, just stay on the knees for a long time. The main thing is don't force the range of motion and try to go to the extremes. You get tremendous neck strengthening and mobility in the short range movements, which can help a lot for combat sports. The last one is the full neck bridge. It's somewhat controversial. There are some people that swear by it and other people that condemn it. I personally, with the serious neck injuries that I've had, have found it to be beneficial. However, with this proviso, I found that when I tried to force the extreme range and force my forehead and nose to the floor, it caused me chronic pain. For whatever reason, my neck structure wasn't built to do that, even after years of trying it. I find, however, shorter range neck bridges, which are used in yoga, and if you notice in yoga, most of the weight is put on the top of the head. Very common exercise in many of the yogic systems. It's been around for 2,000 years. So, it does have benefit, but I do admonish you to take care. I would stay with the fish for a long period of time to feel really open in the chest, but try it. I'm recommending to use the hands here, which gives you some residual shoulder benefit, and use the hands and rock. I like to keep moving the neck and keep it mobile. And it's quite a workout for the entire body. And if you do get flexible enough where you can touch your nose, good for you. For me, I find I get much benefit here, and it makes my neck feel pretty good as long as I don't exceed my limits. A person has to know their limits. Thank you for joining me through this neck section, and I'll see you in the next one, shoulders.